Yeah, a quick intro is just I started with nothing. I had no money, no network, no experience, and no excuses. I just said, I want this. I knew I was meant to be an entrepreneur. I don't come from entrepreneurs. My dad's a college professor. My mom is a former salesperson / stay-at-home mom. I just said, I'm just gonna go figure this out. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I'm gonna go figure it out. And I always recommend everybody be generous with folks. You don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And money lubricates an exit. Like, it's so true. Right. My mission in life is to keep the bulldozers out. I see the writing on the wall. They ain't building any new ones. We've got to control these. We've got to preserve them. We have to make them better. We have to work with our residents, even if they don't want to hear it.
All right, welcome to another episode of CashFlow Quest. We have a really cool industry friend, so we're going to try to bring the insider information on manufactured housing investing. So Ryan Narus.
However you pronounce it is
How
good.
do you pronounce it?
Well, technically it's Narus, but that makes me sound way cooler than I am. I just go by Narus.
Ryan Narus is here with us today.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun.
We love you guys. Y'all are great. So I'm pumped to be here.
We've known you for a long time. This is good. We got lots of
Yeah.
good information to chat about today.
Yeah.
So we were thinking, and maybe I'm just going to shoot from the hip right now because we didn't have a lot of time to chit chat about the game plan here. But I'd like to crack the code for people that are really interested in the industry. Also, like what we've learned, big broad strokes, like the fun, big lessons learned. So we don't go too far in the weeds on anything specific. Like, we don't need to go into our first deal, every little nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But the fun things that people should be looking for now, because the landscape's shifted. It's getting rolled up, institutionalized, consolidated. So if you were to kind of lay out some of your fun lessons learned along the way.
Yeah.
Kind of knowing what you know today, how would you
how
start
would you
or
approach
give
the industry?
advice to a newbie?
And well, how about before you get into that, tell us a little bit how you got into the industry and what you're doing now, like size of the portfolio you manage and kind of like just a quick intro.
Yeah, a quick intro is just, look, I started with nothing. I had no money, no network, no experience, and no excuses. I just said, I want this.
I remember having early conversations with you about that where we're like, hey, what are you doing? And what's on your spreadsheet? And, early on at like MHCA or when we brought into you.
I think we met him at the event in Colorado Springs. It was a rent manager event.
Rent manager
And
conference.
he taught a rent manager coaching thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just remember we would talk, we're like, dang, that guy Ryan seems really sharp. Like, we got to talk to him more.
I appreciate
We got to
that.
learn a few things
That was
from
4
that
years
guy.
ago, y'all.
Yeah,
Was
time
it?
It's
flies.
wild how time flies.
Yeah.
Blame the kids.
Yeah.
Blame the kids, right?
I feel like your industry has a lot of money movers, but not a lot of real operators. And so I think that was what I thought was cool about you. Is like, this guy actually does it. It's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But more or less, I knew I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And I don't come from entrepreneurs. My dad's a college professor. My mom is a former salesperson / stay-at-home mom. And so I just said, I'm just gonna go figure this out. And I didn't realize at the time that is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, the gist of it is like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the heck's going on, but I'm gonna go figure it out.
Right.
And so with no money, no network, no experience, I just put myself out there. I talked to thousands of people, and eventually I found a couple of folks who were willing to back me. And so I looked at real estate like this. There's 3 legs to any deal. There's a willing seller or a group of people. There's the capital, so debt and equity. And then there's the operations. And I said, look, I'm a former salesperson. I can go and convince someone to sell me their stuff. I know nothing about raising money or debt. So I probably need someone to complement my skill there. And I'm an operator. I started 3 other businesses, actually technically 4. And I can do that. I can go figure it out. I mean, how hard, like, not how hard can it be, but how complicated can it be? It's hard. We all know that. And we'll talk about that. But it's really this simple. Like, you have a unit or you don't. There's someone in it or there's not. They pay you or they don't. It's not, you don't need to be a rocket scientist.
Yeah, don't
right?
overcomplicate it. Just get in there and try to figure it out.
The hard part is the people part.
Yeah.
And trying to balance having a heart with protecting your residence and your business. Anyways, flash forward going on 10 years this summer, I've bought 85 properties, 4,605 total lots. Cool. So it's been a journey.
Congrats. Yeah. That's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Average unit count per deal, roughly?
Between 40 and 50.
Okay.
So smaller, because I grew up with David, not Goliath. And my mindset has always been like, I'm always going to be the little guy, and I will have to compete in a clever fashion, because in a conventional fashion, I'm just going to get steamrolled. So that kind of forced me to take a kind of a more clever out strategy, if you will. And that looked like buying medium-sized to small properties, because the PE shops, as we all know here, they're buying all the big ones. Yep. Now, Jennifer, to your earlier point, like a lot's changed in going on 10 years here. Right. Like you can't even buy medium-sized properties for reasonable prices now. So we can get good by
buying them up and consolidating 50 plus units. Anything around 50 units is going to become the new. Like everyone's going for the gold bars, let's say the 200 unit. And then it was like, oh, okay, we'll go get the gold coins, Right. Now we're all going in for like the little scrap metal.
The gold flakes in the ocean.
The little tiny gold nuggets, when you're panning. Yeah. And it's going down because all of the big ones have been rolled up.
It's over. And the thing is, there's still fresh PE equity. I don't want to say desperately chasing after this asset class, but they want it. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, I don't know, 5-7 years ago, where like either these PE shops are going to have to trade these big shiny objects in and amongst each other, or at some point, someone who's clever is going to want to buy a portfolio like mine. So for example, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've bought 13 mobile home parks there. It's about 550 units.
Great market.
I've sold one of them. And not all of them are like within the same fund, if you will, but I have 2 employees in Charlotte. That's all I need.
Wow.
That's amazing. And that's exactly right. Like if you can buy these smaller to medium-sized deals in a market like Charlotte, or pick one that are close together, then you get scale with a team and a great exit strategy to kind of either group them all together or, cherry pick and do bundles of 2 or 3 properties to sell off. That's desirable for people.
That's going to be the future, because they're not building these asset classes, and the big time money wants stable, safe returns. Right. And when obviously he's going to trade at a haircut relative to a big shiny object, but not by much. And we just closed on a massive $105 million CMBS loan that was comprised of 40 properties in mostly big cities, mostly following the same model. And I was talking to some of the CMBS folks, and they're like, we haven't seen something like this before.
Yeah, they probably bid on the debt for the $100 million. Because the higher the loan amount, the harder it is for them to place that much money. So who did it? What more? Can you tell me which bank?
So here's the fun part. When I quit my job to go and live in a mobile home, because I had no other choice to get started because I didn't have any money, I left a job at Wells Fargo.
Oh, funny.
And then Wells Fargo did it. They were the highest bidder. And it's just funny because we shopped at all the, Morgan Stanley, BOA, all the big, KeyBank, all the big players. And when Wells was in the top 3 of the bids, I went, this makes sense knowing Wells, because when they want something, they just whip it out. Like they're going to win. They don't care. They will make it a red ocean to win. And our reps at Wells, great guys. They were just like, look, we've never seen a voluminous portfolio like this, but it is rare. They're like, we're hoping for like $20 million loans. This is $105 million. And my hope is what I've hopefully done for communities like we all own, to just trailblaze a path for the next generation of mobile home park owners to kind of conglomerate and get primo debt, so we can eventually pass some of this value down to our residents. Because the thing that we've all bonded over is like, look, we're operations focused. We're thinking about our residents first. Because a lot of these finance knuckleheads come in thinking about the investors, and the tenants are an afterthought.
And the rent and all the things. Yeah.
Your customers are the residents.
Yeah.
And you got to take care of them.
Yeah. And bring value when you increase the rents. And that we were all at a conference just yesterday and the day before. And that was like a key takeaway is like, you can buy these properties and increase the rents and do things, but you need to add value to your customer, the resident. And I feel like all of us kind of have done well in that space, kind of, making sure the roads are paved and bring a good, clean clubhouse. It doesn't necessarily have to be over the top, right? But just like a good, clean, usable space or a friendly smile, a team member there on site so that they can go talk to and feel supported. Like it's simple things that really bring a lot of value when you go in and do that. So
I think something that's really interesting that we were touching on just a second before, when we first came into the space versus what's happening now, the desirable asset is changing. Because I remember it was big parks, seniors with huge amenity packages. And we have some of those deals. And I feel like the smaller communities that don't have these giant amenity packages, the tenant expectation is much better for the management company. And usually we come in like we're riding on a white horse. When we buy, we have a community in Tucson, it's 55 spaces. We bought that. The manager was crying when we came in and fixed the electric because there was a fault in the line. It was $4,000. The other owner had that issue for 3 years. And when it got real hot, the power would shut off for a section of the homes. And so that is a lot easier to deal with than my pool isn't cleaned 3 times a week anymore. What happened? But the pool's still immaculate and it's heated and we live in Arizona. And it's like, what's going on here? And I think that's becoming more desirable. I feel like the seniors and this perfect cherry asset was cool to people coming in because it sells well to investors, but we are in it for the stable tenant-based affordable housing. And I think that's really at the ethos of what you're doing in your portfolio.
And it makes a massive difference because, and we were talking about this on our panel or before our panel, like, it is so hard to develop, period, right now, that it just incentivizes these developers to build luxury. And so, like in Charlotte and Gaston County is not afraid to tell you cannot build a single family home for under $300,000. We will not let you. They will shut it down.
Yeah.
And what does that do? What that does is, like, when our parents were growing up, they could buy a starter home, build a little bit of equity, move on up if they wanted to, stay put, pay it off. Now our generation can't really do that. At least the average millennial is really struggling to do that. And that has ripple effects on our client base. And so if they're not building anymore, what we as community owners need to do is realize, like, we have to hold on and treat these people right because they ain't building anymore. And if you look at the news, which I try not to because it's terrible, like all signs point to it's going to get worse. The rich are going to get richer. The poor are going to get poorer. There's going to be more of them. They need a place to live and they need someone to spend a couple $1,000 to do the right thing,
100%. I couldn't agree more.
When our clubhouses now, Jen's downplaying it. Like her and our Dasha on our team have done our clubhouses now look like you could put them in a magazine. Like they're awesome.
It was
to where
fun.
they're really inviting. They've never probably been as inviting as they are now. It's so cool.
Well, to your point too, we had, like, Ryan was telling Tide, like, there were some residents that, like, actually cried when they came in and saw it because they've never had access to a space that was, we just put modern furniture and painted the walls and made, a cohesive design that was very modern and trendy. Not over the top though, right?
You don't have to spend the money on furniture anymore. Like you can get everything that looks good and you don't have to blow a budget over it. And then the clubhouses are like block buildings.
Yeah.
You just have to paint them.
Structures.
Like it's not like you really have to put that much equity into them.
It's just interior design, using a little bit of imagination and kind of bringing some color and some life into these spaces that just kind of brings that wow factor.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun. But we did 9 clubhouses this last year, and
that's awesome.
But we're just trying to.
But see, the thing is, you could do that for not just a club, it's a whole community.
Yeah.
And it makes a massive difference because I'm tired of hearing people dog on our asset class saying it's a trailer park. Like, look, this is one of the last, if not the only, reasonable vessels to deliver affordable housing. And we can spend the money. And what I tell my residents is, like, look, because we're mostly tenant-owned homes, you work on the inside of your home, we'll work on the outside. So we'll cut the trees, you cut the grass, we'll pave the roads.
Yeah, make sure the entrance to the property is good, all the things that make a community
we'll work
clean and
together.
nice.
Yeah, we'll work together. I need to know when bad people try to bust into our community so we can help get them out.
Yeah.
And
do you do cameras and stuff like that?
we do, not everywhere. We have a lot of smaller communities, so it doesn't always make sense. But yeah, we have cameras in most of our communities for sure.
Yeah, it helps.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
Because especially with like illegal dumping, which is everywhere.
all the time. Yeah.
It's not just our asset class. Anyways, I know I love that, y'all.
It's not just our asset
So-
It's
class.
not
You
just
were
our
right.
asset class.
If there's
gosh.
an open dumpster, they'll find it.
Yes.
I mean, I've used dumpsters here and there too, so I get it.
Might have as a
Yeah, with your
college
Carl's
student.
Jr., not with everything that you own that
Yeah.
you're getting rid of.
Yeah, I don't leave couches
No
and
large.
huge TVs sitting down on the ground. Nobody can lift them, into the trash.
In Charlotte, we have this area called South End, which is like where the new money is running to. And I was walking with one of my business partners in it, and there was a couch outside a brand new luxury apartment complex. And I was like, see, happens here too.
So you said you have how many parks in Charlotte area?
So we've bought 13, have sold one,
And you have 500 and change.
like 550. Yeah.
And you have 2 people?
It's all tenant-owned
I
homes.
know. I heard that too, and I went.
I'd like to pull on that. Just,
Sure.
I mean, Tide's here too. So
We're going to get in a fist fight over
let's
this.
learn. Let's learn.
Tell us about that, like operational structure. So if you have 13 communities with 2 people, like, do they work out of one common office? Are they split up? What are their roles?
Good question. Now I've got 2 outside with different partnerships, so it's not all merged. It's really 11, and then one of them I pay to use I pay myself basically to use that service, if that makes sense.
Right,
so
right.
even though it's a different partnership, it keeps the investors.
Yeah, price per unit or something.
Right.
Yeah.
We got a fantastic regional manager who also manages a couple other cities as well. And then I've got my former property manager who I just promoted up to handle marketing as well. And between the 2 of them, and we've got tons of fantastic vendors. A lot of the homes I sold myself in English and Spanish. So I still know the residents too, which is fantastic. Some of my favorite residents are there, and it's all tenant-owned homes. So we collect incredibly strongly, and it was fortuitous when we brought Wells Fargo through because I got to give them the tour. I went, so like this property has 80, this has 30, this has whatever. We drive all the assets in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end I went, if you saw a mobile home today, there were 2 things that are relevant to you. Number 1, it was occupied. Number 2, they paid. We drove at the end of the month. We were 100% collected, 400 plus units. 100% occupied. And so I was like, go to war for me, please. Like, please.
Yeah.
Let's roll.
Well, and you did a good job. I mean, okay,
Thanks.
so then what makes a good deal a good deal? Like that, I feel like Charlotte being consolidated near the one deal is closer to the other, you
Yep.
know, and then you kind of daisy chain them together. But like, what makes a good deal a good deal? Because that screams that the market's great
Yeah.
to me.
And you must not have a ton of turnover, right? Because you're 100%
Correct.
occupied. They pay on time. The parks must be desirable, obviously clean
Yes.
and a nice place for people to live in a great market. But
I just feel like the market is if a lot of people we were hanging out with at the mobile home community conference is like a lot of the people singing the blues have deals in poor markets.
yeah,
Right.
which then causes more
And
issues.
Charlotte's always been on my radar as a
Mhm.
good performing.
We were laughing. One of the questions on our panel was, what are your thoughts on buying distressed parks in distressed markets?
Yeah.
It's like, don't do
No.
it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
what are
just
you
a
doing?
no.
Yeah.
Distressed markets is a horror. Distressed asset in a good location. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
then that's maybe worth
You have
talking
to have
about.
one of
Yeah,
the
you
2.
can't have both.
Yeah, I know that my rent is low, and that's by design, because what I want to be able to tell my residents in so many words is like, look, I'm going to charge you a fair price to slightly unfair in your favor, and I'm going to reinvest in these communities. I mean, we cash flow less than 10%. Our CapEx is 24% annually per property. So I spend a lot of money reinvesting in our communities. And I mean, there's been some dark times where some people who most of whom were not there day one when we bought the community, we turned it around. So they don't have that frame of reference of what it used to be. So conversations get a little bit spicy, but look, I keep receipts. So you want to show up, you want to have a tough conversation. I can show you tens of thousands of dollars I've reinvested here. And I'm happy to show you a mobile home park just down the road that's $50-$100 more than me. And that's how it's going to be. And I'm always going to leave a little bit of upside in terms of a little bit of rent growth there, so I can fly under the radar a little bit. And again, like, I want to be able to look someone in the face and tell them, here's a fair price. Here's where you're at, a little bit below that. And you are literally talking to me in my face, and sometimes in Spanish because they can't speak English. Like, go do that with a private equity shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know,
and then down the street, that's $100 more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, you know, like the last guy who was half the rent or sometimes a third of the rent. And then you have the OGs who were there and they're like, I remember, you know, John or whomever. I'm like, yeah, you remember how he never pumped septic tanks? Remember how he ran your line to the adjacent one because the leach field was working and that one wasn't? Yeah, I fixed that. Did we forget this?
Yeah.
Well, that was a year ago. What have you done for me lately? All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Calm
So
down, ladies and gentlemen.
what's your current like average rent there? Just for
Charlotte, we're in the 600s, and the closer to the airport you get, the closer to 800 you're getting.
Okay.
So we're,
Yeah.
you know, I have one in Charlotte proper. Everything else is on the periphery. So 600 is probably about right for the periphery. And the one we bought in Charlotte, we're going to march it up very slowly because there's a lot of elderly. It's not 55 plus, but we bought it like $300 lot rent, and the market's $800, and I'm just not interested in I'm not a private equity shop. I don't have, like, my customer is the client, not the investors. Right. And so, like, we're projecting losses for the first couple of years, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I want to give people who are going to make the journey with us plenty of time to adjust. Because they know it. Then you make a couple phone calls and you're like, oh, yep, wow, okay, yeah, please don't gas it all at once, dude. You're good, right? Yeah. And then the folks who aren't going to make the journey, you got plenty of time to sell the home or move.
Yep.
So how long does it take you to bring a park like that to market?
I mean, we underwrite to a 5-year hold, so I'm going to take my time to get there in 5 years. The sellers are personal friends of mine, so they worked out seller carry with me, and so then that way, and their son lives in the community, and that way we can all work together to get it to a fair spot. And, you know, I'm not to throw shade at the outgoing owner, but they had a different financial situation, right? And so there were massive leaks and they weren't actually profitable, which is wild to think about. Low lot rent, massive leak. It was city water, not billed back. And they had lots of trees. We've spent like 20 grand taking out trees. And they had a higher offer than me from a developer. And they said no because they knew my mission in life is to keep affordable housing. Once that mobile home park's gone, they ain't building another one.
Yeah, it's gone.
Not near there.
No.
Not near there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe in Timbuktu outside of Charlotte.
Right.
You know?
And your model has tenant-owned homes.
Mm-hmm.
You try to stay away from rentals.
I listened to the market. So that's what we were talking about yesterday is I'm in Tallahassee, I'm in Fayetteville, I'm in Ocala, I'm in places that are secondary markets that just scream we want rentals. And I'm not Tim Cook of Apple. I'm not going to go and invent the iPhone and tell the market what it wants before it even knows what the heck it is we're selling. I'm reactive, not proactive. And so, you know, I go out and I listen to people. I show up to my assets. I talk to prospects. I talk to residents, and I try to understand where are your pain points? What problems can I solve for you? And when I'm listening to prospects, that's just what you got to pay attention to, because, you know, if you go to Tallahassee thinking you're going to buy a big asset in Tallahassee, like, you ain't selling those homes quick. You can do it. You can grind it out until you can find the folks who, because not everybody wants to be a renter. But like, if you're going to run in there and think you're just going to convert them all in like 6 months, ain't no way.
But to your point, some markets do prefer to rent versus to be homeowners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as the delta is strong enough between lot rent and what you can get park on home rent, you can actually do a lot better financially with rentals.
Well, sure. Yeah. We like the tenant-owned home aspect. The maintenance cost is lower. You're not, maintaining a bunch of homes, especially depending on what age they are. There's variables to that, right? Okay.
So you operate, how much of your portfolio's rental homes versus tenant-owned
20-ish% are park-owned home, true park-owned home rentals.
Okay.
So I'm still majority.
We have a 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're at war with that. We're really trying to bring it down. So that, I mean, that's pretty substantial. That's like almost 1,000 POH.
Well, yeah. Okay, when you put it that way, yeah.
You own 1,000 trailers, man.
Look, well, my friend Coleman
It's a lot
Bubis.
when you put it that way.
My
Trailers for sale and rent. Sorry, I couldn't stop myself.
Oh, there's that viral trailer park salesman Instagram reel that's going around. I'm sure you guys will see. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
afterwards.
send it to me. I don't know that I've seen it
It's
yet.
hysterical.
You sent that to me.
Oh, is that the
seen it.
one?
Yeah.
Oh, the old mover guy.
He's like, my ex-wife does accounting.
You're right. Yes. It's an old dealership, right?
Yeah.
Selling homes.
Is it real? Do you think that's real? Or is that
No way.
a skit? I mean, it
It's
has
totally
to
a
be.
skit.
Yeah.
I thought it was 100% genuine.
Yeah. I think it depends on the house. If you get that sweet spot where it's like a 90s house, it's completely paid off. You got it with the deal, and you rent it out and you have a sticky tenant base.
Yeah.
Those homes cash flow insane.
Totally.
Yeah.
But when what we've seen when we dive in and look at averages, it seems like there's a lot of sunk costs.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got costs, like, maybe that one's a home run, but maybe next door or a similar house,
Right.
the roof has to be replaced and it has major infrastructure issues. And so what we've seen is, on average, I believe it costs us around $75 a month per house.
Yeah.
So we try to bake that into the cost of the rental to recapture that sunk cost. And then also you have to think about insurance, and you have to think about property taxes depending on the year, and all these kinds of things. So it just seems like it brings it up, and then that's kind of where we go into where we're competing with multifamily. And so that's what we try to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend Coleman Bubis, he said this, and if he was here, he'd probably say, I got it from someone else, but he gets the credit. He was like, if you're in the mobile home park business, you're in the mobile home business.
I agree.
Oh,
100%. You are. I mean, think about it like this.
It's a great quote.
If just using round numbers, if I've rounding up to 5,000 lots that are 1% of that are 50 people. So if I collect 99% of the rent within 30 days, but 1%, just 1%, that's 50 homes that I need to go and figure out, how do I get a title here? Because if they just disappear, I could go through the abandoned title process, but that ain't quick,
No.
And let's just say, that 1% pays within 2 months. Dude, 0.1% still 5 people a month that are just not going to pay. And you either need to kind of broker a sale between someone who you approve to take over, or you just, bail them out of a situation, give them cash. And I always recommend everybody be generous with folks. You don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And money lubricates an exit. Like, it's so true.
I agree.
Just write the check, get them going.
We did this thing. We had this one scenario in Las Vegas where the guy was a total prick, so he checked every box to where you just want to evict him, teach him a lesson kind of a guy,
Yeah.
But it was like at every turn, and at every conversation we had about this guy was that in the end, we're probably gonna have to go through abandonment. Like, all right, to heck with this. We're not gonna be the bad guys, even though we like, this guy, we have every reason to be. We set like 4 different time triggers in the eviction process where we make an offer that's extremely fair. Let's say it's a $5,000 house. We give them $5,000.
Yeah.
It's like, here, take the money, get the hell out of here, but we want the title. Now, and because we want him to have some money to go move. We're not trying to, drive the hammer. So anyways, he didn't take it. And so we tried, but we now have a company-wide policy because of this prick. Yeah. That's like, all right, we got to do the right thing. Even though it may sometimes not feel like it's the right thing, we're going to just make sure we offer it at every point of time.
That has saved us a couple of times where we call it cash for keys,
a lot of
right?
homes.
Yeah.
We bought 20 houses last year from tenants that were facing eviction. And, ultimately we don't want to evict anybody. Yeah, I say that all the time. I have that conversation a lot. And I think that we have a lot of staff and a lot of communities, and I feel like there's this pride thing sometimes. Yeah. And so I try to explain to our team and make sure it permeates everyone. Like, this is a business transaction. Like, even if they were mean to you, they came into the office drunk and yelled at you. I get it. But if we take this to the mat, that person is homeless. Right. So let's try to do cash for keys. Let's try to figure things out. Obviously to this, and we make sure safety is a priority in a situation like that. But we really want to work with people. It's a win-win. It's a win for the tenant that is struggling. It's a win for us because we don't have to go through the full abandonment process and all the things that come up with it. But yeah, it's a frustrating part of the business for sure.
One thing that I'll put out into the ethos that we've been able to do is a partial cash for keys, where we're like, look, let's waive the back balance, let's put a little money in your pocket, sign the title to us. We will now rent this home to you on a month-to-month basis for whatever lot rent is. So that way, like, your payment's the same, clean slate.
Very clever.
Titles
like
in our
this.
name. 6 months to get back on your feet here. As long as everything's okay, you buy it back from us. No profit built in, no interest built in. You just pay us the back balance. We sign the title back over to you. Like, we'll even do the title work for you, just a couple $100. Like, easy peasy.
But now if they don't come through,
They're
you have
gone.
the
You have the
leverage.
title and you
Yeah.
have
Right.
the leverage.
I like that.
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
really
I like
smart.
that too.
we
And it's
yeah.
kind. It gives them a shot to get, let's say, the 6 months to get back on their feet, and then they have the couple grand or whatever it is. They pay back, give them the title.
Yeah.
We have had that go both ways. I had one in Spartanburg where the guy just, paid great for 3-4 months and then just straight stopped paying and then just disappeared. And I mean, that happens all the time where people just disappear and you have no idea where they are.
but you
never
got the
see them again.
title, so
You got
now
the
you're
title.
not in a bind.
And I'm proud to say that we got one probably going on 2 in Asheville, North Carolina right now, where the guy's been great and I can't wait to give him his title back. I
Right.
mean that from the bottom of my heart. He just went
Wow.
through a tough time.
And sometimes you just need a little help from somebody
Yes.
to do a maneuver like that that's a little creative. And yeah, it helps people and changes lives.
Yes.
We had one of my favorite ones is in Cottonwood. When I got the management on Cottonwood, we had a lady, she had $26,000 on the books. And so we set up a payment agreement.
Yeah.
And because she was like, hey, I'm a single mom. I had some problems going on. Like, let me work with you guys. I promise I'll pay. And, pulled on the heartstrings. She paid the entire thing back over a few years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you got to give people opportunities and also off ramps. It's really interesting. And it also depends on the collection type of the property manager. I've seen where, they're doing it through notices and through phone calls. And so the people get scared and they just stop answering the phone.
Right.
But then a new property manager comes in and they're an in-person type of interaction. And then their collections go up. And it's like, what happened here? I don't know. But I told them that they were going to end up in court and they were going to lose their house. And all they had to do was pay me and they paid. And so different management tactics work different. And so it's very
100%.
interesting.
And it's kind of like that whole depends on how the resident kind of takes it, right? Some residents might want the notice, but that other resident might want that face-to-face. There's something too about having somebody at your door and talking to someone face-to-face. You feel a little more accountable when you tell somebody you're going to do something. You're like, oh, I kind of said that. Like, for me, at least, like, if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Right. Or like try to work through it. So if you just get a notice in the mail, it's not like, it doesn't hit you the same. Yeah. So to Tide's point, I get it.
You talking about Cottonwood Heights and the Arizona market up there. You put me in a time warp. But you will have both scenarios.
Oh, you do.
Where are you gonna go? I know where you're going.
Yeah.
So we had this gal that was a psychic medium.
Okay.
And you can like look her up. She's on the news and stuff. It was,
man.
Yeah,
it was
she
as
was.
legit as it goes for psychic medium. Anyways, I won't say her name. It's all good. But we like the success story there. We had the opposite happen with this gal.
Yeah.
Where she owed us money. We inherited a note on her home as part of the transaction.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 20, 30 grand note. And the home was probably worth 40, so maybe there's a little equity there. And so we tried to work it out, but she stopped paying. She used all the stories in the book. Me and Jen went out and met with her, doing the
We
personal
sat in her
touch.
living room.
And had one of the most interesting meetings of my entire life.
Yeah, she was just trying to slide.
Honestly,
whatever she
I
could
started
through.
getting scared for like our safety. Just in that, like, this lady was so drifty that, like, I don't know, she might have had some demons or something.
Yeah.
Like psychic medium, like if you open that hatch, what comes out of there. We couldn't even talk about the damn deal.
No, she would pivot. Like every time we would try to get in a line to really try to get somewhere with the conversation, it was like another story or another pivot that would
So anyways, we
Derail.
like set down the documents we brought. I'm like, stay focused. Like literally I told her that. And we were young. We were in our 20s, you know? And so we're trying to hash it out in a coffee shop. She's like, well, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that. Like I can't pay. And I'm like, well, all right, how about this? I'll give you $5,000 to just walk.
Yeah.
Cause we have the note, like we have all the leverage here. Like don't put me in this spot.
We're trying to help
the note,
you, right?
the community, like we
you.
have as much leverage as you could possibly ever dream of.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to take the money either. Like I'm going to keep my house. Da, da, da. And I'm like, what do you mean? You're not paying?
Yeah.
Like anything. So anyways, we evicted her, took the house, the whole thing.
And then I got the house, and I think there were some dead cats.
Oh,
if I
that
remember.
was the cat house. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to paint the whole thing with keels, you know, the bacteria killing. We had to clean all the
We use
air
that
ducts.
stuff
I think
too.
we found dead cats.
That's
all
what I'm
over the
saying.
house.
We
Dead
found
cats
dead
in
cats in the air duct.
I think she had the cat bug for anyone listening. It's really a fun fact to have. With cats specifically, you get, if you have too many of them and you're basically overwhelmed by the bacteria, you can get a brain bug that actually makes you crazy for cats. Look it up. It's really interesting. All right, in the essence of time, tell me what a good deal is now. You know, and what are you guys looking for? Where roughly market, maybe 1 million plus people? Like, give me some high level market.
So my strategy, and I want to preface this with a good deal is in the eye of the beholder, right? So like Rhett Trees was talking about that. Our friend Rhett Trees, in his panel, he was like, "Wow, this is great." Our friend Ryan Hill loved this deal, and he was like, "I hated this deal," and it's in the same market, and it's fascinating how different people with different strategies can make something completely 180. A great deal for one, about another. So I'll preface it with saying I'm a big city guy till I die. I want to be Charlotte, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa. I'm a Southeast guy, and I don't care if it's small, if it's ugly, if it's big, if it's pretty. My mission in life is to keep the bulldozers out. I see the writing on the wall. They ain't building any new ones. We've got to control these. We've got to preserve them. We have to make them better. We have to work with our residents, even if they, don't want to hear it. So there's a better situation for that woman than living in that home.
No,
and so to me,
totally.
A good deal is where I can make this asset better because I was here and my team was here. And so what does that look like? I have a ton of investors who they don't need the cash flow. In fact, they don't want the cash flow. They want the depreciation.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is what our government wants. There's a lot of tax.
The reinvesting of that money. Keep the money moving and beautifying the communities.
Our government is incentivizing us to invest in affordable housing with tax cuts.
Yes.
So then that way, when you have some folks who are high net worth individuals, who are high income individuals who need that depreciation, they can come and support an operator like me, and I can take their money, reinvest it, up the quality. They've got, like I mentioned that one earlier, we're projecting losses for the first couple of years because we're reinvesting, we're raising rents slowly. And, rich guy over here, he can have his tax write-off. Working class family here, they can either make the journey with us or not, but we have time to do that. And so to me, it's less about like, oh, I'm trying to hit a certain cash on cash or IRR or this, that, and the other thing. To me, it's about, I've got a team behind me. We're working together to fight to preserve affordable housing, specifically in big cities. And to me, a good deal is just anything where I can make it better because I was there and I can put my flag there and say, I'm preserving this. We're keeping the bulldozers out.
And continue to provide the opportunity for people for a cost, friendly cost, affordable type housing without being government subsidized.
And I'll do you one more, Jen. I'll say that, this one we bought here in Charlotte, I walked around myself and I met anybody who was there and willing to talk. And I told them, like, I just want you all to know, I'm pretty darn confident that the city does not want you here. And they're going to figure it because they've already changed the zoning. I was like, have you looked that up?
Yeah.
Like, they've already changed the zoning. You know what that means? That means, hey, developer, come on over. You don't got to get entitlements. It's already done.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I had to explain to everybody is like, look, if somebody shows up from the government, which by the way, we just dealt with this in Gaston County, where they enacted a sunset clause without telling us. And so I had to go get an attorney to be like, Where's my certified letter, huh? You're just going to change my zoning?
Yeah, without notifying me.
That is wildly illegal. I'm going to crush you in court.
You have to sue them. You have to flex on them.
But here's the thing. And here's the thing. I describe it this way, right? I'm the nerd. I was a nerdy kid growing up. I got to go ask the football team for a favor. I walk in there. I'm 90 pounds. I'm going to get leveled. If I can just pay like a bouncer to follow me, all of a sudden they're going to look at that guy and they're going to look at me. And then there's just going to be this like kind of aura of respect.
You're like, oh, okay. I got to talk to this guy.
But that's, I hire an attorney. That's $1,000.
Yeah. It's time and money.
Right.
That's unnecessary.
Yeah. But here you are, you're holding the line on the behalf of the residents.
Yes. Fighting.
This is what and this is what I told him. This is what your lot rent pays for.
Right.
Is so when one of these corrupt knuckleheads shows up, you got a big bouncer guy who's going to stand back and be like, got your back. And does it suck that your rent goes up? Of course, nobody wants to pay more for something that they feel like this is what it should have been worth. This is the other thing, but I'm cutting the trees, I'm paving the roads, I'm fixing all this stuff. I'm protecting you. And by the way, the highest and best value of this asset class with a fair rent is going to be affordable housing.
Yeah.
If you keep the rent really low, the bulldozers eventually show up because the highest and best use is no longer this asset as it cash flows today.
Right.
You have to kind of pay the piper a little bit. You have to pay a fair rent.
Still significantly less than a apartment next door.
Right.
Yes. So it's still the best
50% of, and you own it and you can sell it and you build equity in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So rules of thumb. I'm just curious about your thought because you're in smaller parks. Density, like max, like ours is 15 to the acre, 15 homes to the acre. Have you ever thought about that? Or do you guys have a metric?
It's all zoning dependent. So we wanted to sell. We ran into this in Blount County, Tennessee, where we had a warehouse we wanted to sell off. And the guy was like, dude, you can't because you don't have the density. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's off on the side. It's like down a hill. Like, it's not gonna. And he's like, yeah, but like division, right? Like you have X number of acres. Now you have smaller acres, same number of homes. Therefore, your density went up, even though a trailer isn't moving anywhere.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's really more because we're in primary cities.
But I also mean just like, from just a layman's sense of like how many trailers before it gets too tight
would you consider?
Because some communities are so tight that if a little old school, like we have a few that were like, if we pull that home, we're not getting a new one back in.
Yeah. So you're effectively grandfathered.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I own some where you could high five the guy next to you, roll your window down, just like, bam, baby.
All right. Yeah. All right. Understood.
So I'll do it all. Yeah. I'll do it all as long as it's safe.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
So
fire is a serious concern.
Do you fix up those old homes?
Yeah.
Because you have to?
You have no choice. Once that home's gone, they're not letting you infill that lot again.
Unless you stay in that envelope, right? You have to. Yeah.
Even then, they might not let you. I got a bunch in Tampa where they're like, nope, not doing it. I'm like, similar or smaller size. And they're like, I don't care. Because again, they want gentrification. These cities
are. For the
record,
I've sued a city on that and I won. So you can go into the envelope. Yes. So you can't move you can't encroach any further.
Right.
But if you can historically, like if you go back to aerial imagery and stuff and sue them on that grandfathering, you can put something back. Cause we had a few homes burn where it's like, we can't fix them.
Yeah. You don't have a choice at that point. I've got some questionable infrastructure and I don't, Mm-hmm. But yes,
but you can, I think you could win as long as you stay in the box.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But like what new home? You can't. You have to go buy an old one and fix it up. It's an 8 wide.
We want the 8 by 23.
Yeah.
You don't make that anymore? That's weird.
Okay, so then, how far out of a major metro? An hour?
I own in Halifax County, North Carolina, which is a strong hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Raleigh. Middle of nowhere, Peanut Farm. That's what I was talking about yesterday.
Okay.
Peanut Farm. Lovely place.
Is that like your furthest one?
In the middle of nowhere, yes. That's about as rural as I've gotten.
So max 2 hours from a meaningful metro.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That kind of sums it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that like at least then you're still having that influence of a big city.
Mm-hmm.
No. Not in good old Halifax. No.
But don't you have traffic, like roads going to and from?
I-95 cuts right
there's
through
a
it.
peanut farm. He already told you.
On Ruby's Peanuts. I'm giving you a shout out, y'all.
Do some of the people that maybe live in these communities work at the peanut farm?
Oh yeah.
Like, so that's like a major economic driver for that particular area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but it's still an hour and a half to 2 hours outside of Raleigh.
No, but we tried to grab people from Raleigh and
just too far.
like
I just gotta ask, what's the rent next to the peanut farm?
$300.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty decent rent.
Is that one of your parks that you can high five your neighbor?
No.
Okay. So
Tons of
that's
acres.
Okay. So it's
Expensive to
nice
cut.
and rural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out there, there's big grassy lots.
I bet it's beautiful.
I will say this, and I hope my insurance people aren't listening. I had a conversation with a woman face to face in that city. I was like, we got to get rid of this trampoline here. And she's like, what are my kids supposed to do? And I was like, I'm checkmated there. I guess you can have this. There's literally nothing to do here. Like, okay, you can keep this trampoline.
All right, I'm gonna turn around.
Yeah. All right. Just sign this waiver, please.
But the dolphin figurines are out.
Oh man.
Classic.
Oh man.
Well,
good stuff.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
So many cool
Love you
insights.
guys. It's just such a breath of fresh air to talk to fellow folks who put the residents first. It's
Likewise.
not everybody. And I'm on a crusade, like I said, to try to get more people like us in this asset class because we need it.
Yep.
So thank y'all.
Thank you too.
Yeah,
thanks for coming,
we're in this
man.
for the long haul. It'll be fun to keep growing and seeing what we all do. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Cheers. All right.
Cheers.
Thanks for joining us for another
Thanks.
episode of the CashFlow Quest. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next time. Cheers.